Good day, gamers! So it's been a while, and I'm aware of that. It's like a massive Argentinosaurus in the room. So, should I address it? Extinction is probably in the best spot it has ever been. There are thousands of players daily, something only a dream update could bring, honestly. Jeez, y'all remember the Rise and Fall Part 1 update from over 2 years ago? The update that took over an entire day to be playable and caused schizophrenia in players? Well, it only got 2,000 players, and that was considered the biggest update ever at that point. Meanwhile, we're starting to get 3,000 players daily at just a normal day. Plus, the revenue has boosted, even though more than half the roster is now free for everyone. So we can see that Extinction is in a great spot. Not perfect, I'm not blind, but it's at its best. But let me stop this. Anyway, so the dev team has finally decided to be a studio, and started developing another game. The much awaited Mammalian Dragon game. I mean, cool. In all seriousness, this is a great opportunity, because if there's something every nerd loves, almost as much as dinosaurs, are dragons. And this little project looks very promising, especially because they have top tier designers, creating distinctive and amazing looking creatures like the Crescent Moon Wyvern, the Magma Drake, and of course, the Chonker. Segoya herself plays Monster Hunter. Obviously. But the game is still in development, and there's few dragons in this. Plus, there's open submission channels for concept art from the community for the creatures that will be playable and also non-playable. So, I was thinking, why not make my own dragon? And some of you may be saying, Tama, why make a whole video and not just post it in the respective Discord channel? Shut up. Let's get right into it, shall we? Before anything, I am not an artist, nor do I consider myself an artist. This was made for fun and first and foremost. And if you have any issues with it, you can put it in the comments in a respectful manner. This video is meant to be a way for me to belittle others or to show off. I hate that I have to say this, but we live in this day and age, so whatever. Designing a dragon isn't that easy. And yes, I'm going to use the term dragon to generalize. Why? Because I despise this thing right here, and the entire hype mentality that it came out of it. All these charts are based off of nothing. A dragon isn't defined by anything. In fact, almost everything there is literally just a dragon. Hello guys, Editor Magoshi here, and can someone explain me why is Quetzalcoatl there? Holy shit. Most words here literally mean just dragon, or worse, a snake. Even this image Jacob provided is mainly based on Dungeons & Dragons mythology. A dragon is whatever you want it to be. You aren't as smart as for pointing out differences, because there isn't. Anyway, it isn't easy to design a dragon. Most reconstructions were made out of mythos as representations of gods and natural phenomena, and many of them were just chimeras from fierce animals. Think about it. The wings of a bat, the body of a lion, the skin of a snake, venomous, fire-breathing. Dragons were mainly made to represent power, phobias, and the wrath of gods, and other stuff this video isn't about. However, this game isn't just that, isn't grabbing just, Vega or Permatracks and plopping them in the game. The creatures here have to make coherent with one another, and to all feel like a natural environment with evolution, natural ancestors, and actual rules. So it isn't just doing whatever and boom, we're set. It's about making something that makes sense, and of course makes sense to be put in the game. Basically, look at what Extinction already has, and what can maybe be put in Extinction can also be made here. So yeah, I have that in mind whenever you want to make your own dragon. For the design itself, I'll use this thing just for the body plans and names, basing me on what is already planned for the game. And the game itself has only 4 types so far of dragon. The European dragons, the wyverns, the drakes, and the leviathans. I mean, the leviathans aren't technically an ISO category, but I'm putting them because if they are fully aquatic, they're GG's. And for what they have planned, these are the ones. For wyverns, we have the jungle wyvern, the crescent wing wyvern, and the great unicorn. For dragons, we have the mirage maw, the coastal reptile, the northern quillback, and maybe the sugarflies. For drakes, we have the magma drake, mosaic macwave, and maybe you can classify the stalwart giant fella as a drake, but there's no confirmation that will even come to the game. And so far for the quote-unquote leviathans, we have the possible inclusion of the false angel. So the roster is already pre-stacked, as we can see. So now my choice is what type of dragon to do. And I'll be real, I'll choose the wyvern body type. Why? It's just the one that I like the most. Sure, I absolutely love the European dragons. The regal presence they have, that classic sense of power they evoke is just amazing. But something about the wyverns is so savage and cool. They have something absolutely primal in them that is just amazing. Chef kiss. So now that we have a base, we need an idea. In the submission channels, there are many great ideas for wyvern type, although there is something that's lacking in the game. And knowing the Extinction devs and seeing the attention to detail they put in designing the creatures, they'll want to make a coherent ecosystem. And so far, the game lacks a very important thing in it. They don't have any herbivores. I mean, they used to not have, but yeah. Sure, the big fella is a herbivore, but who knows if and when it's going to get added. Everything else is a carnivore, though even the great ecohorn is drawn hunting another carnivore. So designing a herbivore was a no-brainer. But you could ask yourself, a herbivorous wyvern? What do you mean by that? And sure, the idea of a herbivorous dragon might sound odd, but there is in fact a couple examples of herbivorous dragons, or well, wyverns, in one of the most amazing game franchises ever made, coincidentally having top-notch creature design as well, Monster Hunter. In this game, we have many examples of herbivorous wyverns, like Bambaro and Duramboros, which yeah, they are wyverns, brute wyverns in fact, which comes back to my point that dragon meets whatever you want it to be. But there's a specific monster that will serve as inspiration for this beast, the bane of every new hunter, the tyrant of the desert, Diablos. For those who know nothing about this monster, Diablos is a flightless flying wyvern that lives in the deserts and feeds on cacti, renowned for their aggressiveness and sheer power over basically everything else but elder dragons and DJ. Diablos and his cousin, Monoblos, have been terrorizing hunters since the very beginnings of the franchise, and the concept of a massive, aggressive, flightless herbivore is amazing. So yeah, I'm just going to use it. And now, with this, we can do something that shall follow the design they have already. So far, the Mirage Maw and Great Incohorn are desert dwellers. The Crescent Wing might be a nomad, a king of the skies, if you will. Then, by the rest of the dragons, we can say that there will be a tropical jungle and a volcanic area so far, at least in the more warmer climate. So, I'll make mine a warm climate inhabitant, going to desert, temperate areas, and even the edges of volcanic zones. And to be honest, I want this to be a massive wyvern, probably one of the largest wyverns in terms of sheer mass in that environment. So heavier than the Crescent Wing, and maybe also the Greater Incohorn, with a body more suited for land traversal and charges. So more developed hind limbs and more muscular wing arms, not for flight, but for foraging, protection, and for actual sprinting. Good, so we have a massive, flightless, herbivorous wyvern that lives in warm climates, but now we have a problem: elemental attacks. Basically, every creature will have some sort of elemental attack, except for those who don't. And those who won't will have special abilities that will do many elements. So, how will a flightless, large herbivore protect itself? Well, first and foremost, we'll make it a tank. The top of its shell will actually be either very resistant to fire or completely immune to it. So any attack from above by any dragon that spits fire will be thoroughly tanked, and those strong legs will give it the strength needed to sprint away from danger or into danger, because I love mean herbivores, and let's be real, something this size won't be a pushover at all. Especially seeing this elemental chart idea, because we can add something to it. So, now that we have the idea and the niche, let's get to draw. I used the black rhino as a base for behavior and certain features, then started thinking on how the body should work, what will it use it for, how could it move, how could it attack, and how it could defend itself. Of course, I still used the blood wyverns as a baseline and started making it. So, let's see what came out of it. I ain't gonna lie guys, this looks disgusting. Good thing I put that disclaimer at the start of the video. Nothing looked like it belongs there, to be honest, and the detail was null and void. The scales looked like crap and the ash was just horrible. And it's no wonder I decided to change it for a way better version. Now this is a better thing. With more detail, better texture for the ash, better spice, and the colors are the best they've ever been, to be honest. Overall, I loved the design, and some might even think that this is the final design. But no, it isn't. Why? One word: art style. This design is very derivative from Monster Hunter, maybe even too derivative to a point of a ripoff, and I don't want that. So after looking at my almost 20 hours of work into the trash, I started looking at the actual art style of the game, and I got something that actually looks nice. Of course, this isn't my actual normal way of drawing, so I wasn't used to the proportions, but hopefully it will still look good. Here we have it, the Ashen-backed Brute. A massive terrestrial wyvern with highly developed limbs for extended traversal, using its wing arms to dig up roots and underground tubers, as well as moving around. But thanks to the fact that its limbs are highly developed, this massive creature is way faster than anything its size should be. This thing, the moment it wants to flee or just run fast to gore something, it rushes on all fours in a low stance that guarantees high momentum and speed that can scare off other beasts. It also has a club tail to smack opponents, or to just intimidate by hitting the ground with it. But the main feature, other than the edge covering its body, we'll get to that, is its horn. The Brute has a massive horn that used to move soil, uproot plants, mark its territory, sexual selection, and interspecific combats, just like rhinos. Males have those beautiful red accents and longer horns, while females lack those accents but their wings are longer, mainly to protect their cheeks. The Brute can be described as a messy eater, especially with ground plants, just slamming its jaw into the dug up soil and scarfing up dirt, mud, and whatever else before gulping it down alongside plant matter, right into its big old maw. With all of this tough, hard to digest food, this creature has got a big old gut to digest all of this plant matter and all that heavy muscle to process food and separate actual usable material from non-digestible stuff, before the latter gets pushed up to the crop, which is more of a pouch in the neck, where it stores the trash to spit at any opponents to blind them in a form of a breath attack. Now for the Ash. The top of its body is tough and highly armored, and has evolved to just tank the heat from the fire like it's just a warm, hot day breeze. Whenever the Brute gets attacked by, say, the Crescent Wing Wyvern, it will hunker down with a control key, and in this state, its lower body will be covered with its wings, and everything from above is just tanked. Ergo, the ash that has gathered on their backs from belligerent fire breathers that just want to burn any living thing and think they can do the same with the largest herbivore around. The more ash a Brute collects, the older it is. And this ash isn't just to look cool. If a carnivore gets too close to it and is too big to fly, then the greater eagle horn, for example, the Brute will shake off the ash, creating a smoke screen that will prevent the enemy from flying and seeing much, while the Brute makes a run for it into a cave or a dense vegetation. However, one of the main weaknesses of the Brutes are venomous bites, especially from below. That big belly of him is a weak point that smaller pack hunters can take advantage of. Of course, hunting an Ashen-backed Brute isn't easy, but a coordinated pack of venom biters have an easier time than the giant fire spirits. In terms of attacks, its mouse 1 would be a head swing, goring opponents with their horn, while its mouse 2 will be either a tail swipe, making sure to slap anything with its spike club, or the breath attack. It depends on how the combat is designed in the game. By pressing the middle mouse button, the Brute will shake off its ash. But when sprinting, the Brute will change the attack from the shake off to an actual charge, just like how Trike or Pachyrhino do, during which the Brute will be basically a charging ram of pure armored muscle. Do I expect this to get added? Not really. Is it a very derivative design? You could argue. Do I even expect the devs to choose this over the designs the actual dev team are making or from other more talented artists? No. Do I even think this is an actual design that can be considered good? Maybe. So, why did I do this? Why did I spend hours of my time making this? Because I could. Because I want this video to inspire others to make their own designs. Do not get discouraged by the fact that they're basically fighting against gods. And because it is fun. Drawing the Ashen-backed Brute was a lot of fun. Maybe the most fun I've had drawing in a while. Just think, how the body could work, how to make every part of it make sense, how to just look into the nitty-gritty of herbivores was a lot of fun. And I still want to design more dragons just because it is fun. And I think that should be a philosophy of folks when designing creatures. Have fun. Don't think of it as a chore. I made my own research. I looked for inspiration, but never because I felt like I had to, but because I wanted to. Plus, I still believe in the concept itself, and I want people to do more than just another dragon with more spikes, not throwing shade of course. And to whoever watches this video and has a great idea, do it. Draw it. You don't have to post it. Just draw. Enjoy yourself. And if you can't draw, it doesn't matter. Sometimes the idea is just as good as the drawing. And even if you draw it, then that's great. Never feel discouraged from looking at those that are more experienced artists and objectively better artists. Because none of them can draw your drawing. And I'm sure following this we can make an amazingly creative community. Talent isn't everything. Sometimes you just need a good idea. Thanks for watching. If you like my concept for the Ashen-backed Brute, or you think it's just a ripoff, put it in the comments below, in a respectful manner. I read all of them. Have a good one, and es bueno volver.